Not all businesses can be saved. And I'm going to share with you a study case of a company that I went to work for, and I couldn't do much. I did something, I didn't do much, but it's a good example for you in terms of what not to do when you have a business that is actually doing very well. So at the time, I was not advertising my small business as a fractional COO. At the time, I was just working with a bunch of small businesses, and I was doing okay in terms of putting systems, making them better and faster. And one friend of mine told me, I know this accounting firm that might need your business because the owner is very unorganized. That was a huge understatement. When I got there, it was chaos. An accounting firm, basically right now in 2025, they use QuickBooks, this software to do accounting, which is very simple to use. And if you own a company, good news, because it's very likely that you don't need an accountant unless you're making more money. Of course you do, but if you have a tiny business, you really don't need an accountant because you can just tie your bank with QuickBooks, and making a profit and loss report is not really difficult. And if you need to learn how to do that, you can follow the link below in which I point to my online course on how to run your business based on numbers. And you will be able to do your whole financial dashboard by yourself, no accountant. So if you want to do that, follow the link. So this company, when I got there, they went from 3 branches to just 1. At some point, they even owned a restaurant because business was good. But the owner was doing absolutely everything, and she was working with very uneducated staff. When I got there, basically they were not using QuickBooks fully. They were using it partially, but when any customer would come, they have companies and regular people showing at the door, and they would ask people to print their bank statements. And if you know what that is, it's basically you cannot do anything with a print statement. You have to take line by line each transaction. You went to the gas station, you have to input that on your computer and your system. Imagine a book this size, and there were a bunch of those throughout the entire office. It was insane. So, of course, the first thing I said, why don't you guys teach your users how to download the bank statement, send it to you, you upload the file in QuickBooks, and voila, you get all the information in less than 1 minute, and then you just need to organize expenses, personal expenses, expenses for the company, revenue, everything. You got your profit or loss, you can do taxes, very simple. They were doing things the really old school style, and I could not understand why. Now, the reason the owner gave me is because their customers were not very educated. This was a Hispanic accounting firm, and most of the customers were Hispanic, mostly in construction, in services, landscaping, and just regular people with no businesses. And it was true at some degree. But I'm gonna show you how basically I took all the business, I made my own systems in my head, and I said you will be saving this amount of time and you can grow the business this way. And I'm gonna show you my conclusions. For the moment, the owner said, no, they won't do it. Let's keep doing it the same way. And I was shocked that they were just willing to waste time. Now, what was the main issue? To take those huge books and take them to the computer would take close to 40 to 45 minutes per month. Calculate that times 12. Now, many of these companies were behind on 1 or 2 years in taxes, meaning that now there were 24 months, which was insane. So the team of people that were people not really prepared with numbers, they didn't know how to use spreadsheets. They would do this by hand, and a bunch of people putting data into the computer, into QuickBooks manually. And the worst part is that the customers would be waiting for hours and hours and hours thinking that they were gonna do it right there. The owner didn't have a system to schedule people. They didn't have a system to tell people, we're gonna take this amount of time, come back tomorrow or the next day or by this date. So, okay, I got one negative response, and then I talked to the employees, and what I did was basically a simple Google Sheets formula, which basically measured the time that each task would take. You would input the amount of those tasks that you have, the time that you put it in, and the date, and boom, it would give you a result on when that task or that specific job for a company was going to be finished, so you can call the customer. Basically a task management tool that I make with Google Sheets. And of course the formula would only take into consideration Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. So the accuracy of the tool was like a margin of error of 5 minutes. So everyone was kind of happy with it, not enthusiastic about it, but they were, okay, we can call the customer by this day. What happened? Suddenly the floor, the office, because before we had people with kids, it was a mess, waiting for up to 4 hours. Kids would get hungry, they would start screaming, people would be getting into conversations very loud. It was a really bad working environment. The employees were incredibly stressed out. So with this, suddenly people started to receive calls and come back this day, and the office kind of cleared out, and it was very good. So now they had this scheduling system, again, on top of a broken system. So that worked, and if you want that sheet with a calculator, you can download it on the link below. If you want it for your own thing, you can use it for manufacturing, you can use it for any kind of activity that you know that you're gonna be making. You just have to put the time frame that you're gonna do each task, and you can actually create multiple, and basically you will get a really good prediction of when you're gonna be finished. So the part that I wanted to tell you is that I did help to this company. I got this job because of a friend of mine, but they were not really receptive with my work. I have big wins with other companies, and this was not a big win. It felt like they could have been so much better. Now, when I started, I noticed that the office was kind of big, and they have close to 50% of the office just for people waiting, which was insane. And I said, you know what? Maybe if you use part of that space to put computers or any screen with some basic training, a 3-minute video on how to put your app on your phone, your bank app, to these people, then how to download a CSV file with your transactions, or just send them to the email of the company, that would save them and the company so much time that people would go there, sit down, do that, come back, reduce the time, and I calculated that they could have grown the business close to twice the customers that they had. Now, the answer that I got, and this is the whole point of this video. Sometimes small business owners know that they're doing something that can be better, that can be improved, but they don't do it. And Steve Jobs said that in a very good way on a very old interview that he gave. I think it was 94. He said, when I started running companies, I would ask other people, how do you do it? Or why are you doing this in this way? And he would say that the answer that he got every time was the same. It is done this way because it was done this way in the past. Basically like folklore, You do what you did in the past and you don't question anything about it. The potential of that company was to grow twice. Use that space to put these little training stations, maybe 2 or 3, and they have even more offices and more space to get more people to do this job. And I was about to give a report of the increase in revenue, but they were not really interested. The employees were kind of tired after all of these years of giving ideas to the boss that they were too actually not very receptive. My job was just to do that, and then I left to work for other company. And this is the example that I wanted to share with you, that sometimes just by fixing processes or costs that I'm going to show you in other videos, you can gain so much, not even increasing sales. So if you want to download the template that I use for this company, or the task manager, it's on the link. If you want to know how to understand the numbers of your company, of your small business, without having an accountant, which is another expense that sometimes we can't make, there's my course on the link below. And if you have any questions, my name is Gabriel and I'm a fractional COO for small businesses. Thank you.